Folks, hello and welcome to week three. Let's see, we're past 1/3 of the way home on the course here, and certainly hope everybody is doing well. What I want to do as I have the first couple weeks, is we want to take a look at what's going on this week, and we'll start in the upper left-hand corner here with our learning objectives for week three. Now, the first one: determine the relevance of quantitative reasoning in a given situation. Again, this is just kind of advancing the idea that we've talked about since week one, that in the course of our day, whether it be our professional day or our personal day, there's a lot more quantitative, and I would also say qualitative reasoning going on than we would actually think. Use ratios, rates, and proportional reasoning in context. We started talking a little bit about rates last week. When we talk about ratios, we're talking about basically a fraction: 1/2, 3/4, 5/12, anything that looks like the comparison of two numbers through division. And then when we start talking about proportions, that's the equivalence of two or more ratios. And we'll see a bit of that this week. The third one, especially as we start getting towards your course project, we're going to start talking a little bit more about data analysis. So we're going to talk about measures of center and variation that are typically associated with a basic course in statistics. And then finally, use relevant mathematical techniques in a given situation. I think the way that I would present this to you all is, if you have a toolbox at home, you have certainly a hammer and a screwdriver in there. And, sometimes it might be difficult to insert a screw into a piece of wood with a hammer, just like it would be difficult to insert a nail into a piece of wood with a screwdriver. And the point being this: as we continue to grow in our mathematical maturity and we see more and more mathematical techniques, we'll understand that these techniques, and I should also say in the statistics world as well, since we're talking about data, that there's a time and place for each. And again, as you continue to broaden your knowledge, we want to make sure that it's clear that these techniques do have a time and place. Let's see, over here on the top right-hand corner, the assignments for week three. Again, participation activity and challenge activity in zyBooks. Project proposal, we'll talk about that down here again in the bottom right, in the bottom left, as we have for the first couple of weeks. And then in this spirit of data, the quiz for this week will focus on characteristics of data. What I thought I would do is, as I was going through my own study this week, I came across a really nice link in your Module 3 folder that I want to highlight for you here. So I think I've got this hyperlinked. Let me see if I can get to that. Yes, so in the Module 3, this guide, before you get into zyBooks and start reading about data, take a good look at this. This is a really nice overview of data, what it is, what it isn't, a data distribution, data distributions numerically, data distributions visually. There's obviously a very visual element of mathematics, and that is also in the statistics realm as well. And then some ideas here, as we talked about when we talk about measures of center and measures of spread or variation, however you like to look at that. And really just a nice overview before you get into zyBooks. So I hope you will get some time to take a look at this. I think it'd be well worth 10 minutes to go through this before you get into zyBooks. Again, the course project, let's take a quick spin around this one more time here. Again, this goes back to, if you want to look at this, this goes back to, let's see, I believe in Module 1, you will find this overview. And again, 3 potential scenarios. You choose the one that you like, and then you can go to town and get after that. And I will look forward to seeing the proposals. Let's see. Let me just take a look at these other links here. Again, this is also in your Module 1 folder. Again, as you choose your scenario and you start, looking at data, again, we spent some time looking last week at credible sources and that sort of information. Here you go, again, with some ideas on, what this looks like and maybe where you could find some data. And then finally, let's see, one more one more link here. Yes, just again in context, and I want to talk a little bit more about context here when I close out the week 3 overview. Remember, so we're sitting here in week 3, but let's, some of the things that we've already embarked on here, discussion from week 1, quiz from week 1, quiz from week 2, your journal submissions that you are finishing up during week 2, those will be submitted. And then as you get to your proposal, don't forget about these 4 things that you've already accomplished and where their place is in the context of your proposal. So it would be good to, and I'm gonna take a look at this before we close out our week 3 introduction, but we certainly don't want to lose track of the ideas that we have talked about already as it supports the project and the proposal this week. Concepts, terminology, and notation. So let's just take a look at what's going on in zyBooks here this week. Let me see. I think I have a link here. Not sure how I lost that link, but let me just go to that myself. In module 3. And so let's take a quick look at zyBooks here. I apologize that I lost that link. So again, we start off with a discussion. Obviously, when you see an average, you're talking about a measure of center. What is really nice about this week, and it goes back to similarly this idea that I talked about with kind of the time and place with your mathematical techniques. You may ask yourself, well, if I have a measure of center in a distribution, why do I need 3 of them? And there will be some nice discussion about that this week, and we certainly want to be mindful of that discussion and when the time and place is to use certain measures of center and the associated measures of, again, whether you call that variation or spread or again, those are the typical measures of variation. So we have, let's see, the discussion of the mathematical average, sometimes called the mean. So you get that here. And let's see, then as we spin over to section 3.2, when we talk about the median of a distribution, again, this is another measure of center, but we absolutely want to make sure when the median is more appropriate than the mean and when the mean is more appropriate than the median. So that will be a good discussion here. It also goes back to that link that I showed you in the module 3 folder that kind of gives you a nice overview of measures of center and measure of dispersion. So we definitely want to take a good hard look at that before you dig in here. And then we get to section 3.3, measures of spread. So this is where we're going to start talking about variation. You'll typically look at some very simple calculations called the range. Again, the difference between the high value in a distribution and the low value in a distribution. That will give you a quick order of magnitude on how much or how wide the amount of data is that you have. And then let's see, average deviation, and then we get into variance and standard deviation. And so when we get into more of a data analysis scenario, certainly we don't want to lose track of things like a range, but those measures that become more practical and more applicable are things like variance and standard deviation. And standard deviation really being kind of the gold standard for a measure of spread or variance, whichever you prefer to term that measure. And let's see, so a lot of good things going on here this week. Let's see, is that, I believe that's it. Yes, so next week we'll get into a discussion of functions, perhaps the most valuable and most important discussion on all of mathematics, that being the idea of a function. So let's wrap it up here. And again, if you notice, I changed this up a little bit. Obviously wanted to get a good, at least a good sense of what we're looking at here. in terms of concepts, terminology, and notation. But again, as we, one more time here, the thing I stressed again is making sure we don't lose track of the things that we've gone through and how they're going to support us as we get into the project proposal this week. Just again, big picture, what have we really talked about here? Well, this idea, that we continue to harp on here, quantitative reasoning and mathematical techniques. Week one was about consumer mathematics and the things that we go through in the course of our daily lives, again, whether that be personal or professional, and the inherent quantitative reasoning that we use to make decisions. And that's what this course is all about. And so we absolutely want to be grounded in that. And then last week, maybe a bit of something that looks like something on the periphery, but actually not when we start talking about geometry. There's very practical applications of geometry, whether you're planting a garden or you're trying to build a doghouse or anything of that nature, remodeling a home. All those sorts of things, are again part of this element of quantitative reasoning that we use in the course of a day. And again, associated with that, one of the things that really comes inherently with geometry is unit analysis and conversions. And the other thing that tags onto that from week two is this look at data. And we had a nice activity last week with our journal where we were evaluating sources whether they're credible or not based on some criteria. So if we think about these big three ideas, the consumer mathematics, geometry, along with the unit analysis and conversions, and then again, a brief look at data. Obviously, we pick up a little bit more in the data this week as we start getting towards your course projects. But overall, some very good foundational ideas for you to get started on your project. So I will look forward to seeing your proposals later in the week. If you have any questions on those, please feel free to reach out and we'll have whatever discussion is necessary. Take care and have a great week.